Today we're talking about changing units of measure within systems. Let's get started. First, we're going to talk about switching from larger units to smaller units. For example, we might want to switch from kilometers, which are a large distance measurement, usually used to measure things like the distance between your house and the school. And we want to convert that into, say, meters, which is something used to measure, say, the wall of our classroom. When we're going from larger units to smaller units, we are going to multiply. Okay? So let's look at an example. On here, we're going to convert 13 yards into feet. Now I notice first off that I am switching from larger units into smaller units. So I know that I have to multiply. I also know that I have to start with the information that they gave me. So I'm starting off with 13 yards, and it has to be multiplied times something. And I also know that my answer has to be in feet. Okay? So the key here is going to be what goes in this blank. What am I multiplying by? In order to find that, you're going to need to look in your book. There's a conversion chart in there, and it will tell you that there are 3 feet in every yard. If you don't have your book with you, you can also Google for conversion charts. They're on there. There are lots available. And when you do that, some of you are going to notice that Google will actually convert a lot of things for you. It's fine to check your work doing that, but please keep in mind that you won't get to use Google on your test. And so I don't recommend using it to do all of your homework because it's going to show on your test. And remember that for our class, tests are 60% of your grade, and so that would really hurt your grade to have a low test grade. Okay. When we multiply these, 13 times 3 is 39, and so we know that there are 39 feet in 13 yards. So that would be our answer. What about if we want to go the other way? What if we want to go from smaller units like feet into larger units like yards? Okay? You're going to notice that we are going the opposite direction, so we want to use the opposite operation. So we're going to divide this time instead of multiply. Let's look at an example. We are going to go from smaller units, so in this case 17 millimeters, into larger units. So we want to switch that, or convert that, into centimeters. So again, I notice I'm going from smaller units to larger units. I know I'm going to divide. And I also know that I have to start with the information that they gave me in the problem. So I'm going to start with 17 millimeters. I know that my final answer has to be in centimeters. And my question again becomes, what do I divide by? And again, you have to look at your conversion chart. So I see that for every centimeter, there are 10 millimeters. So what I'm doing is I am dividing by 10 because I'm trying to convert this into centimeters. All right, so when I do that, I have 17 divided by 10 is 1.7, and 1.7 centimeters is my final answer. All right, now we have one more thing to look at, and it's called dimensional analysis. Dimensional analysis is just a fancy way of saying that we have a multi-step problem. So I can't convert, for example, from yards into miles. I don't have a direct conversion. None of the conversions for that would show up on my conversion charts in my book. And keep in mind, I choose what conversion charts you see on the test. So you want to be sure you can do this dimensional analysis. So what this does is it gives me a way to convert from yards into feet, right, which I have a conversion for, and then from feet into miles, which I also have a conversion for. And so by doing that, I can get from yards into miles, no trouble. So it's just a multi-step problem. So first I'm going to show you how to work it out as 2 separate steps. All right? So for this one, we want to convert from 6,600 yards into miles. Okay? So first, my temptation is always to look and see, okay, can I convert from yards into miles? And I look and I look and I can't find a conversion. So I have to look and see on there, what could I convert yards into that will then convert into miles? And I notice, hey, I could convert yards into feet. So my first step is actually going to be, I want to take this 6,600 yards and I want to convert it into some number of feet. So if I'm going from yards to feet, I'm going from larger to smaller. So I'm going to be multiplying. Okay? And I have to figure out what am I going to multiply by. And I go and I look at my conversion chart and I see, okay, there are 3 feet for every yard, so I'm multiplying times 3 feet, right? So on here, 6,600 times 3, that's going to give me 19,800, and that answer is in feet. This is step 1, all right? Now, I have to take this answer at the end, and I have to convert those feet into miles. So for step 2, I am starting off with that 19,800, sorry, I'm having trouble with that number today. And I want to convert those feet into some number of miles. Now this time I'm going from feet to miles, so that's going from something smaller to something larger, so I have to divide this time. When I look at my conversion chart, I see, okay, there are 5,280 feet in every mile, so that's what I'm dividing by. So when I do 19,800 divided by 5,280, I get 3.75. And so my answer is 3.75 miles. Okay? And again, in 2 steps here, I have converted from yards to miles. Now, you might also see this problem written out as what looks like a 1-step problem. Okay, so if I were to take the same thing and you look in your book, the example that they have there takes it from 6,600 yards to the same 3.75 miles, but they write it out where it looks like this. They take 6,600 yards times, times 3 feet for every 1 yard, times, let's see, 1 mile for every 5,280 feet. And miraculously, they still get the same answer we did. They still get the 3.75 miles. Okay, so it's important to notice they got the same answer. Now, I'm going to walk you through how they did this and why it's really mathematically exactly the same as what we just did on the previous slide. First of all, it's broken up into 2 pieces. So this is our step 1 here. They are taking that 6,600 and they're multiplying times the 3 feet. That's exactly what we did before. Remember, we got that 19,800. Okay, that's the same. Then they're multiplying, but they're multiplying times a fraction. So this 1 over 5,280 feet, this is really the same as dividing by 5,280, right? Because that 5,280 is on the bottom of the fractions in the denominator. That's the same as dividing by it, right? So keep that in mind, and that is how they get the exact same answer. It doesn't matter to me whether you write your questions out as 1-step problems or 2. Just be sure that you can keep track of what you did, and that if I asked you, hey, how did you get to this answer, that you could explain that to me. Okay? I hope you have an excellent time, and thank you for listening.